So, Catherine, I understand that we're here today to talk about your social anxiety. Is that right?
Yeah, I I struggle with social anxiety, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to work with you through this. Yeah.
That's so good to hear. I'm glad that you want to work together with me on this. So, can you just tell me whenever you're ready what's on your mind right now?
Yeah. Well, I guess I can just start with some situations that
Yeah.
I'm really anxious in.
Mhm.
Uh, One in particular is in classes. So I get a grade for class participation, and I always get a low grade for class participation because I never speak out loud in class. I'm just so nervous, and I'm afraid of what people think about me, and if I have the right or wrong answer, and if I'm loud enough, and yeah, it just makes me so nervous, and it's affecting my grades in school.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't really know what to do about it because
Mhm.
I just get so nervous.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it sounds like to me, Catherine, that you really struggle with just nervousness when you're in the classroom. Is that right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not so much like the crowd, the group aspect of it. Like I don't really get socially anxious in
Mhm.
groups of people. It's when I have to speak out loud
Mhm.
in front of people,
Yeah.
and in front of groups of people,
Mhm.
or even just a few people sometimes if I don't know them. So yeah, the class participation, that makes me nervous because then if I do speak, um, everyone's looking at me, and my answer could be totally wrong,
Mhm.
or yeah, I don't know. I just feel like they would think I'm dumb.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. So that's totally understandable. And why do you feel like that way of feeling dumb when you're called on? Like, can you expand on that a little bit more of when you are called in class, what you feel?
Yeah. Well, I've always been nervous speaking out loud in front of
Mhm.
people, um, like for fear that I'm not saying the right thing, and that people are judging me. Um,
Mhm.
I guess that's just like an insecurity of mine,
Mhm.
um, that I don't really know what to say,
Mhm.
and that people will think I'm saying the wrong thing, or not saying enough, or yeah, I guess it's just like an insecurity of mine.
Mhm.
I don't know where that insecurity came from. I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you try to think and reflect a little bit on that and those feelings of insecurity?
Yeah. Well, I guess I think I've always felt like it. I remember, um, even when I was in kindergarten, I remember my mom put me in ballet lessons,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't even go into the room with all the other kids my age because I was so nervous, and I ended up quitting
Mhm.
because I just didn't want to be in there with all those unfamiliar people.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it's just always been in me, or if it's something that I picked up along the way.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I kind of feel. I guess. I guess it kind of feels like I'm shy. I know that I'm shy around people that I'm just meeting, and people that I don't know. Um,
Right.
yeah, and I guess that just eventually turned into social anxiety
Mhm.
because it is fear and nervousness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, yeah. And were there other experiences when you were younger that you remember that you had those feelings of anxiety?
Um, oh, just off the top of my head, I can't really think of any when I was super young. Um, I remember in grade 7 we started doing um, like class presentations for like debate groups.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have to write a paper um, on like a societal issue and then talk about the pros and cons of each side of that issue. And I would just get so nervous. Like my hands would sweat and like I would just get so nervous. And yeah, and I still get like that for class presentations to this day. Um, yeah. So yeah, I guess I've just always been that way.
So it sounds to me like whenever you feel like people's eyes are on you, that's when this kind of these feelings are exposed. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's it. But then also, I think it's just when I'm talking in front of other people, because I've always played sports growing up. I've always played sports, and like I've been fine with that. Like I go out onto the volleyball court and play no problem, or skating when I was out there by myself. Like I would get nervous, but not as nervous as speaking in front of people. Yeah. So yeah, I guess it's more so when people are talking to me. But then the ballet situation, that I guess that was just like where my shyness started. So I was always shy, but then it eventually grew into social anxiety, especially when I'm talking. Yeah, and I'm also not a very loud person, so then I was always told to like speak up when I was speaking in class. So I guess that also made me just nervous to speak in class. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like I'm happy to hear that you've recognized that shift of being starting at shy.
Yeah.
And realizing that you're starting to feel more anxious in situations. And do you see other people feeling like that in classes?
No, I see other people getting nervous for class presentations, but not to the extent of being nervous about just simply speaking in class when like the teacher calls on us. Yeah, so sometimes I feel so isolated in this problem. And I also, like, I know that I'm introverted, and I've always heard the saying, like, oh, you're an introvert in a world full of extroverts kind of thing. So, like, I think that also comes into play. And a lot of other people just find it so easy to talk in front of other people, but I don't know how, because it's so hard for me. Yeah.
So it sounds like you compare yourself to other people a lot.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that's definitely what I do sometimes, yeah. Because I think I just see other people talking out loud in class and other places too, and I just think to myself, like, why can't I be like that? Like, why can't I just do that so carelessly and free? Yeah, but I just can't. So I hope to get to that point eventually, but I like it'll be a process. I know that. Yeah.
So, Catherine, you mentioned before that you notice that there's other people around you that seem to be more comfortable. Have you noticed that with your family as you were growing up?
Well, sometimes, like, well, I don't know though, because like my parents, I just always found them very like reserved to themselves more. So I guess they are on the more of a shy side. I've always noticed that they didn't really hang out with a lot of other adults or parents unless it was our family members.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, like, they weren't super close to them. Um, and also, like, when I would be at school in maybe like primary or elementary,
Mm-hmm.
my friends would would comment or talk about how um, their parents were also friends and like they
Mm-hmm.
all hung out together. And I just that's never happened for me. Like, my parents have never hung out with my friends' parents or anything like
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, yeah. Um, so I guess maybe that comes from my parents, my
Mm-hmm.
shyness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I've never really talked to them about that before. I just thought they were more reserved and quiet than other people's parents. Um, yeah, and they're not really the type to put themselves out there. So I guess I am like them in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and I've never really witnessed them in situations where they would have to speak out loud in front of people. So I don't know if they would be the same or if they would feel the same way that I do. Um, they might. I'll probably ask my parents about that actually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and my brother, like, he's kind of the same way. Like, he's quiet and just like to himself more. He's not the type to be all out there and outspoken or
Mm-hmm.
loud. Like, we're all pretty
Mm-hmm.
quiet people. So I guess I've kind of been socialized that way.
Mm-hmm.
My parents never really pushed me to go out of that comfort zone,
Yeah.
I guess. So, yeah, that's kind of led me to stay in that comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm not blaming them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're good parents, obviously. That's just
Mm-hmm.
it's just how I've been socialized, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how do you feel, like you mentioned, um, that maybe your parents kind of encouraged, maybe subconsciously, for you to stay in
Mhm.
that comfort zone because they don't model that, maybe.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about just kind of, yeah, feeling like you're not stepping out of your comfort zone?
Um. Well, I know I'm going to have to step out of my comfort zone to get over
Mm-hmm.
this. And like, that scares me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like, I know it'll be beneficial. Um, I kind of wish that my parents had pushed me out of my comfort zone when I was younger to get me
Mm-hmm.
more used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's over with now, and I'll deal with it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, there's fear there, but I know that it's what I have to do
Mm-hmm.
to get over this gradually.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and like, my anxiety isn't that bad that I shouldn't push myself out of my comfort zone. Like, I won't get into like a panic attack or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's basically just nervousness and fear. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll work on that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll work on pushing myself out of my comfort zone. Like, maybe talking to some new people,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or I'll actually try and participate in
Yeah.
class.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that'll help me. Then I'll get more used to it. And I find if I do something once and get over that first hump,
Yes.
then it's just
Yeah.
easier the more
Mm-hmm.
times I do it. So
Mm-hmm.
I just have to keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm so glad that you've been able to come to those realizations of maybe what is causing this social anxiety.
Yeah.
That being said, I think this is a good area spot for us to stop. But I look forward to continue to work with you over the next few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Just listening to you share about kind of your feelings and things. So, yeah, and if you're still comfortable with it, we can continue to meet on a regular basis.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love that.
Okay, awesome. Well, it was very nice talking to you today, Catherine, and I'll see you next week.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.